let's continue our notes on the 8 standards for mathematical practice. We've been through math practices 1 and 2, and today we're going to talk about math practice 3. Remember the format that our notes are going to take. We will start by writing the math practice number and what it says. Especially today, we're going to clarify any words or phrases that you don't understand. Then you'll have a chance to put it in your own words. After that, we'll do an example or two to help us understand it, and then we'll reflect, where you will set a goal. Today, we're going to go in this order. If we make it to the next math practice, then we are going to be switching those around. It just kind of depends. Sometimes you need that example to help you clarify what something means before you try and put it in your own words. But I'll try and warn you anytime we make those changes. Online students, just remember that you can pause the video at any point if you need extra time to take notes or to think. I will be calling on students in class and try and repeat their answers as much as possible so that you can hear their responses. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's start by reviewing. I want to know math practice 1. Who remembers what math practice 1 is? Yes, thank you. Let's go to Jaden. Make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. Perfect. Math practice 2, let's review that one. We just finished it yesterday. What is math practice 2? Danielle?
Reason abstractly and quantitatively.
Yeah, reason abstractly and quantitatively, and I've included those images to remind us what we mean by abstract and quantitative. They both represent the same thing. They're both starry nights. One of them is real life and has that real life aspect to it. One of them is the same representation but an abstracted version. Yes, Jaden? Okay. Math practice 3 is where we're starting today. Construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. Please get this one written down in your notes. As you're writing this down, I want you to be thinking about words that you don't understand, words that need to be clarified. Math practice 3, construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others. Now that that's written down, what words need to be clarified? What are some questions that you have about any of the words or phrases? Yes, ma'am.
Viable.
Viable. Okay, who can help Danielle understand what viable means? Good. Seth, give it a try.
Is it like reasonable?
Yeah, reasonable. Jaden? Okay. Yeah, good. I think, honestly, the word good is a great way to describe viable. It has to be not just good, though. I'm going to add the qualifier, the quantifier. Qualifier, which one is it? Really good. It has to be a really good argument. Some words that my earlier class came up with that I really like. Persuasive. I really like that one. Has to be persuasive. It also has to be accurate. Accurate or correct? Okay, what other words or phrasing in there needs to be clarified? Yes, ma'am. Yes, critique. Who can help Cassandra? What does critique mean? Yes.
Like
It is like criticize. Yes, same root word. It is criticize. Only instead of just writing criticize, I'm going to add, I want it to be constructive criticism, which means that when we are criticizing others' work or their thought processes, that we are doing it in a constructive way. Oh, let's spell it correctly. We're being positive about it, trying to help them learn. We learn a lot through that process as well when we become the teachers. So as I'm writing all of these down, I think you guys should be writing them down as well to help you understand this next part that this means. Write down what viable means. Write down what critique means. Any other thoughts for critique? Sometimes critiquing is just thinking about it. Sometimes everything is great, but you don't know that everything is great and perfect until you've actually taken the time to think about it. So I think I want to add that word on there. I also like the word, yes. Yes, that was the word I was going to say. Yep, judge. We're judging. But again, it's a positive thing. Judging, thinking, constructive criticism. Another group came up with nicely fix, but I think that that's the same as that constructive criticism. Any other words or phrases in there that need to be clarified? Okay, then I'm going to ask one. What do I mean by arguments? When I say arguments, what am I really meaning? Am I saying that we should be yelling and screaming at each other in class? Jaden? Like a debate, yeah. Kind of like we did with our warm-up. We didn't really debate, but we each had a reason, right? So when I'm saying arguments, we are going to debate. We're going to just come up with our reasons. We'll have explanations. And that's what we mean by arguments. We're not necessarily arguing or fighting, but arguments are your explanations, your reasons, your justifications. I like that word too, justifications. So, based on us going through each of those words, I think that you are ready to do this mean. So in your own words, what does this mean? Remember, as you write this down, this is your homework. So that means you're going to take anything that you write down for this means, you'll go into Canvas tonight and you're going to put it in. What does this mean in your own words? So start writing that down now. Give you just a few more seconds. All right, and I'm looking for a few students to share. What does this mean? What did you write down? When I say construct viable arguments and critique the reasoning of others, what does that mean? Go ahead.
I think it means, like, if someone says, like, something that you don't agree with, like, you, like, try and, like, kind of fix it.
Yes, I do think that that is a big part of it. Thank you for sharing that, Jamie. It's a little bit more than that, though, too. That definitely takes care of that critique the reasoning of others, but I don't want to bypass the construct viable arguments. Because the only way that we'll be able to really critique the reasoning of others is if we already have our own argument, if we already have our own thought process. Danielle, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to create reasonable debate and use your debate as constructive criticism for others.
I like that. Construct reasonable debates and use your debate to construct, or to, what did you say? Constructively criticize others, something like that? Okay, good. Seth?
Create an accurate and reasonable opposition and help them justify their reasons.
Good. Create an accurate and reasonable opposition and say it again.
And help them justify their reasons.
And help them justify their reasoning. I like that a lot. Now, for the sake of time, I am going to move on. I do appreciate you guys being brave and sharing your thoughts on that. Just make sure you don't forget to do this in Canvas tonight. Do in Canvas. Okay, let's move on. Example. So go ahead and write example. I'm going to move to the next slide where I will read the whole entire example, and then I'll come back to this slide so that we can just write down the important pieces of information. But I want you to see the whole example first, and then teach you how to pull the important pieces to write down just the important pieces. So your example is this. About 80% of the egg rolls sold in the U.S. grocery stores are made in Houston, Texas. A skilled wrapper can make 4,000 egg rolls in an 8-hour day. Betty said this is about 1 egg roll a minute. Is her claim reasonable? Explain. Before I tell you what you need to write down, I want you to think about this. What is the important information? Read through it again with your groups if you need to. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but there is some extra information that's not necessary. So I want you to see if you can find that and not get tricked by that. Have a 30-second discussion. Go. Okay, did you find the unnecessary information in here? What is not needed, Daxton? Yeah, that 80%, that doesn't matter. And I think sometimes we freak out because we see a percent and we're like, oh my gosh, I forgot how to do percents. But read it and you realize that that doesn't even matter. All we need to focus on is this, which I now have written down here, and I want you to copy in your notes so that we can take those appropriate notes. A skilled wrapper makes 4,000 egg rolls in an 8-hour day or an 8-hour shift. Betty says that's about 1 egg roll a minute. Is her claim reasonable? Take a second to get that written down so that you do have it in your notes. And as you finish writing this in your notes, I also want you to start discussing with your groups. Let's create our own argument so that we can critique Betty's argument. Makes more sense to figure it out for ourselves first before we start critiquing the reasoning of others. So let's go 60 seconds. That should give you enough time to finish writing it down and to start utilizing math practice 3 to determine, is her claim reasonable? Your 60 seconds starts now. Go.
No, it's not reasonable, but. Because if there's 4,000 egg rolls, one for every 10 seconds or something. I don't think he is. I think he is like 460.
All right, let's come back together. Is her claim reasonable? Make sure you're able to explain and justify. Charlie.
It's not reasonable because there's 60 minutes in an hour, and if you do 60 times 80, it's only 480. So if he made an egg roll a minute, he only needs 480.
Very good. For the purpose of the video, she said 60 minutes in an hour, 8 hours in that shift that she's working. So that means that in that shift, she would only be doing 60 times 8 egg rolls, which is 480 egg rolls. Is that the same as 4,000 egg rolls? No, it's not. So no, this claim is not reasonable. Who also says no, but did it in a little bit different way? No? Yeah, go ahead, Daxton.
So I did 80 times 6 first, and then I added 0 to 4,000.
Oh, okay. So you just were simplifying the calculation a little bit, so you didn't need to use your calculator? Okay, who else did it a different way? Does anyone know how many egg rolls it really is in a minute? No. Let's do it that way. Because I think that that can also be a really good way to argue this, is first of all, we can just prove that she's wrong, but let's create our own argument, okay, to prove that there's more than that, and I want us to look at it kind of backwards, where we have 4,000 egg rolls in a day, which is an 8-hour shift. So 4,000 egg rolls in 8 hours. How many is that per hour? Go ahead, Daxton. 500 egg rolls per hour. I should spell egg rolls correctly. And if it's 500 egg rolls per hour, how many is that per minute? What are the calculations that you're doing as you are figuring this out? 500 egg rolls in 1 hour. What are we typing in? Jaden? Nope, not 500 divided by 480. We want to know how many egg rolls in a minute. We know 500 egg rolls in an hour, but I'm trying to convert that to minutes. Go ahead, Dexton. Yeah, because how many minutes are in an hour? 60 minutes in an hour. So 500 divided by 60, tell me what you get. Okay, and 500 divided by 60 is equal to 8 1/3. If you type it into your calculator, you're probably getting 8 and 3 repeating, which we can put 8 and 3 over bar. Or I'm hoping that you know that this 3 repeating is the same as 1/3. So 8 and 1/3 egg rolls per minute. I want you to think about that. How many egg rolls do you think you can roll in a minute?
0.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be able to finish one. I know I would struggle pretty hard. I'd probably rip a couple of the egg roll wrappers and get really mad and say some bad words and then have to start over again. So it would take me at least a couple minutes to get one egg roll wrap. So this is really impressive that they're doing more than 8 every minute. Okay, and that is an example of constructing viable arguments and critiquing the reasoning of others. So we have our example. I'm just trying to think what we got next. I think, okay, let's do this first before we move on. I want you to think of when have we critiqued the reasoning of others, whether it's in this class, in past math classes, but I do want to keep it in a math-oriented relationship here. When have we critiqued the reasoning of others? Go ahead and have a quick discussion. When have we done that? Discussion with your tables quickly, and then we'll come back together. Come up with as many times as we've done it. A question, Maverick? Or you're just ready to respond? Okay, let's come back together then. Maverick, when have we done it? Yeah, we did in the class norms. When we were writing our class norms, we did critique the reasoning of others. Good. When else? Daxton? When we do Mr. Stadell's estimation 180s. Jaden? Yeah, anytime we have a different answer. Now, normally at this point in the year, I do my favorite warm-up. We get different answers, which is the my favorite no. You guys did that in the past with Mrs. Christensen. I'm avoiding that one this time just because I'm really trying not to touch your guys' papers and have you guys moving around the room. But the my favorite no is a great time when I put up that mistake to critique the reasoning of others. So what about when you guys graded your own pre-assessments? It's not critiquing the reasoning of others, but did you have to critique your own reasoning and think about why you got it right or wrong? So whenever you check your work, you're critiquing the reasoning of yourself, which is also an important part of this. And now let's switch gears. I want you to think about or give examples of when you have constructed viable arguments. When have we done it in a class? When have you done it in your own past math classes? When have we constructed viable arguments? Let's go another maybe 30-second discussion at your tables before we come back together. Ready, set, go. Okay, let's come back together now. I want you to give me some examples of how we've constructed viable arguments. Who has something for me? Seth?
You use evidence to support your answer.
Whenever we use evidence to support our answer. Love that. Like today's warm-up, right? When I had you choose which one you would pick, and then you had to justify it. Would you rather? What else? What are some other examples? All right, then you better write this one down. This is the most important way to construct a viable argument. Show your work. Showing your work is something that good mathematicians do. Although mathematicians are lazy, they always can justify what they've done. And the best way to justify what you've done is to just show what you've done. Show that work. Because if you don't show that work, then you have to write a sentence to explain what you did. And I think it's so much quicker to just show your work than it is to write a whole complete sentence about the things that you did. So showing your work is constructing viable arguments. This is the math practice that many of you guys are going to struggle with the very most throughout the year, and that I will have to remind you repeatedly, but one day this will become habit and it will be in your brain that we need to show our work. I also would like to add that constructing viable arguments is evidence to support your answer, yes, but sometimes it's just writing your thoughts. Tell me why you did what you did. So now, with that in mind, we are ready for the final piece of our math practice 3, which is our reflection piece. I can construct viable arguments by what is it that you are going to do. I can critique the reasoning of others by what is it that you are going to do. And if I have my way, I would strongly advise you to put I can construct viable arguments by showing my work. I'm not going to make you write that, but I do think that is one of the best ways to do it, and it's one that I want you all to practice and get better at. So complete those 2 sentences. Please don't forget that you do have homework in Canvas, and that is write down what does this mean in your own words. Whatever you wrote down here, you're going to be typing that up for your Canvas assignment. That's it for today. We'll see you next time.